All right, welcome everyone. We are going to draw a piece of pie today. So let's start with a little dollop of whipped cream on top of this pie. And I'm also going to show you another little thing that you can do in lieu of watercolor. Although it's still watercolor, it's just a different way that you may want to approach it. So this is the slice of pie, and it's very foreshortened. We come straight down. Now make sure this line and this line are not only parallel, but they're the same length. And then this line and this line are parallel. Same thing here. If you need to use a ruler to measure the length, please do so. And then this line is parallel. So this is one of those pies where it's kind of creamy on top and then like a chocolate cream pie. Oh, before I get into shading, let's put some crust on here. So here's the crust of the pie. Sometimes I like the graham cracker crust, and sometimes I like that flaky crust. Okay, back to the shading. So many of you getting so much better at your drawings. It's a pleasure to see. And this is going to have a bit of a cast shadow. And our light, since it's coming this way, so this top part is usually really light, but it's still going to have some shadows on it. The bottom one is going to be even darker. Some animation studios, artists draw on a lazy Susan so they can spin their drawing, which may be a good idea. I should try that. So this would be like the chocolatey part, so it's going to be darker. Still. So this side and this side they're too similar in values, so I want to give this just a little bit more. So I'm just going to take it down and make it one value darker. And have a cast shadow. Let's fill in this crust. They're just like drawing hills. Very similar. There's a lot of overlap. You learn to draw one thing in art and it applies to other things. That's why I think these lessons are so valuable to you. All right. Well, we need something to eat this piece of pie with, so let's have a spoon. We could draw a fork, but I find spoons are more fun to draw. Shadow. This would be in shadow. And the whole spoon is going to cast a shadow on the ground. And we'll put this on a napkin. And over here, let's have a beverage to wash this all down. So just draw a basic cylinder. Notice this is rounded. Well, so too, there's such a temptation when drawing cylinder shapes to flatten it. You want to draw it round. I exaggerate it. I actually think this is more curved than this, but just make it at least parallel. And to emphasize this, let's put some stripes on this cup. I could have rounded this even more. There is such a temptation. Well, you know it's a straight line. So you want to draw it like a straight line. So now we're getting so much more sophisticated in our drawing. We know to put a bit of a form shadow on this cup, and we know how to do it. We know that form shadows start out light and blurry, and they get darker, and then towards the edge again, it gets a little bit lighter. And that's called reflective light. And about where the form shadow begins, that's where the cast shadow begins. And it's going to curve up and behind this. Cast shadows usually have a hard edge, but not always. And not always is there reflective light either. Let's put some liquid in here. Notice I'm leaving a little light area. Let's reflect. Liquids usually reflect whatever lights, and then this would probably catch a little shadow. And we always think of horizon lines as being straight, but they could be curved. Might make for a more interesting drawing. And let's just put a quick background on here. And we'll just crosshatch it. Go over it one more time. Now if you use a blending stump, you can smooth this out. I do like pie. I don't know, right now, if you offer me a piece of pie, I think I would say, I'll have a slice of pecan pie and a cup of coffee. Though I'm not really tired. Don't need the coffee, but apple pie is good, cherry pie is good, chocolate cream pie, that's pretty darn good. With our blending stump, you can use your finger. You can blend this all in. Next time you are at an art store, not that you probably go very often, but if you're at Michael's, you can get a package of blending stumps, and they're very inexpensive. Like a few dollars and you might get 6 of them. In fact, if you ask me, next time you see me in class, I'll give you one. I think I got some laying around. Although my favorite sweet, I gotta say, is probably cookies. I don't know, I like cookies. Okay, there we go. So what I want to show you now is an alternative to the watercolor. So I've already drawn the pie. I used ink, but I used a special kind of ink. It's not hard to find this kind of pen. This one is, I don't know if you can see that. I think I got this at just any stationery store. It's a Rollerball. Some ink is water soluble. Most inks are not. So for example, your standard ballpoint pen, I take a little water, it doesn't smear. But Rollerball inks, and you can test it, any kind of pen, you probably have one at your house right now. You can even use saliva if it does this. You've got water soluble ink. And you can do this in lieu of watercolor if you like. What you're really still doing is watercolor. And now there may be areas of the drawing that you don't want ink to get on. So if you take a white crayon and color where you don't want the ink to go, you could just cover it. So let me go over this. Because the ink will not penetrate the wax in the crayon. It's water resistant. So when we do the watercolor, I want you to cover the corner to corner and it to all have color. And there are times when you do really want a highlight, something that just is really bright. Maybe a little liquid here. So that's with a white colored pencil. And let me continue. So you may have one of these pens at your house, and if you really don't like doing the watercolor with different colors, some students really like just black and white. Well, here you go. You can do it this way. And the more water you use, the lighter the gray. And it does run sometimes. Hopefully you're getting the idea here. See, one thing I forgot here is the cast shadow. I think you're getting the idea here. See where I drew with a crayon, it's really not adhering to it. So, see how it's beating up? And it's better to pat than it is to wipe. And let's just get this background. So if you like this method, and you don't like doing the watercolor, or for some reason your watercolor is not available, see if your pen is water soluble, because you can do pretty much the same thing. So it's monochromatic, using just one color. In this case, black and white. You're still covering the whole area. And sometimes after this dries, you come in with your white crayon and lighten it up again. Okay, there we go. A piece of pie.